Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran gave us through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam access to knowledge through wahi, and along with that knowledge through wahi, we have access to the mind, the intellect, the aql, and we also have the five senses. So in our tradition of Maturidi Kalam, we say Asbabul Ilmi Thalatha, as we read the traditional texts, and we use all three when we discuss theology. We use the empirical method of evaluation and gathering data and knowledge. We also use the mind, and we definitely use wahi, or the knowledge of wahi. So we use all three in order to come to terms with what is the murad of Allah, what is the purpose, the intent of God vis-a-vis our lives and the issues we face in our lives. So in early Islam, there is the Prophet ﷺ, who was the sanad, who was the be-all, end-all of everything. For the Sahaba, he was everything, he was the authority. So if it is wahi, then they would follow. Whether it was wahi matlu or ghair matlu, it didn't make any difference to them. Whether it's recited wahi, meaning the Quran, or non-recited wahi, which is the Sunnah. For the Sahaba, the Prophet ﷺ was the embodiment of wahi. They listened and they followed. Thereafter, through what we call the oral tradition, we developed a sense of learning and teaching which did not require books. This ummah has been called the ummah that is ummiyun. So we are from the ummi tradition. The Prophet ﷺ is a Nabiyul Ummi, and the people who followed him were al-ummiyun, and that constitutes a method of learning that does not require a pen and a paper. And that's how Islam was taught, and that's how Islam was spread. Stop here.
Okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. مولانا الشيخ بدأ بقوله أنكم استمعتم لمحاضرتين في هذا الصباح، ومع شكره للمحاضرين إلا أنهما كانا أشعريين ولم يكونا من الماتريدية، فحان الوقت أن تستمعوا إلى الماتريدية من ماتريدي. وبدأ الشيخ بالحديث عن أهمية علم الكلام، وأن الخوض في الإلهيات شيء لا مفر منه، سواء كان الإنسان متأله يعني يتبع أحد الأديان السماوية، أو كان حتى رافضا للتأله أو الإلهيات، هو مضطر أن يتحدث عن الإلهيات حتى لو كان رافض لهذه الإلهيات وحاول أن يرد عليها. ثم تطرق لأسباب العلم الثلاث، وهي الوحي والعقل والحواس، وقال أننا في تطرقنا لعلم الكلام وتعبيرنا عن العقائد الإسلامية ننحى نحو الخوض أو في هذه المسائل اعتمادا على هذه الثلاث. وتطرق لفترة حياة المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم، حيث قال أن الصحابة كانوا معنيون بتتبع الوحي سواء كان متلو أو غير متلو، وكانت بالنسبة لهم يعني الشيء الأعظم هو اتباع المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم ومعرفة مراد الباري عز وجل، كيف يعيشون حسب مراد الباري عز وجل. وكانت طريقتهم في التعلم والتعليم تعتمد الرواية الشفوية أكثر شيء، لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نبي أمي وأمته أميون، فكانت طريقة التعلم لا تعتمد على الورقة والقلم، وإنما تعتمد على النقل عن طريق الرواية الشفوية.
Then came a period after the Tabi'un where there was a need to now document what we knew from the Sunnah and what we understood from what we call al-mafhum al-Islami, and put it into paper, put it on paper, into books. That's when the tradition of books came in with the early mutakhirun, where you see now Imam Shafi, and just before him Imam Malik to a certain extent, although he didn't rely that much on that tradition. Then Imam Ahmad, Imam Bukhari, and others, they came in to do the documentation of what was called wahi ghayr matlub. Okay? The non-recited wahi was then now crystallized, and it began the tradition of the written tradition. Okay? Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan, before them, he documented the fiqh of Abu Hanifa, and that became the written tradition in the Hanafi madhab. Then the muhaddithun came and they started writing and they started documenting, and that's how the oral tradition and the written tradition became part and parcel of the learning process of Muslims throughout the world. So now, today, we rely on both. We rely for the practice of Islam on the oral tradition, where if you're going to teach somebody how to make wudu, you don't get a manual and say, this is how you make wudu. Your mother tells you, this is how you make wudu. That's the oral tradition. So when somebody converts to Islam, you teach them through the oral tradition. You don't stack a book of Bukhari and Muslim and Tirmidhi and say, based on these hadiths, you are now going to make this wudu or do this salat. So the oral tradition is still very much alive in our communities, but along with that, academic learning comes from the written tradition.
يقول الشيخ: ثم جاء عصر التابعين فتبلور المفهوم الإسلامي، ودخلنا في مرحلة التدوين على شكل كتب، ومن من بداية عصر الإمام الشافعي وقبله مالك، مع أن الإمام مالك لم يكن يعتمد عليها كثيرا، ثم من بعد ذلك الإمام البخاري وغيره من الأئمة، حيث تم توثيق الوحي غير المتلو وبلورته في تراث مكتوب، كما عند الإمام محمد بن الحسن الذي دون فقه الإمام أبو حنيفة والأحاديث التي رواها. ومن ثم أصبح هناك ازدواجية في التعليم بين الشفوي والمكتوب. نحن نعتمد على الاثنين. عندما يتعلم أحدنا الوضوء يتعلمه من أمه مثلا بطريقة شفوية، فالتعليم الشفوي لا زال موجود في هذه الأمة، ولكن أيضا هو مزدوج بتعليم أكاديمي مكتوب، ومن كلاهما نتعلم مراد الباري عز وجل.
It is from here that we now can talk about learning Islam in the modern world. In our times, where the way to learn is through academia, colleges, universities, schools, etc., we rely heavily on the written tradition, which is fine. We don't have a problem with that. At the same time, in our understanding of wahi, what is wahi? Because as a Muslim community, we're going to bring to the table all three of the tools that we have in order to learn: the hawas al-khamsa, the five senses, the aql, the mind, and also wahi. So we bring everything to the table, and then we apply certain criteria, and we apply certain methodologies, and we treat the knowledge, the corpus of knowledge that is Islam or Islamic, as something that is alive and something that is vibrant and something that has to be not just revived but implanted in the minds and lives of people. So we do this in a very cultivated way, where through the preservation of knowledge through books, we teach people how to read and write. But the purpose of teaching how to people read and write in Islam is to understand the oral tradition. The purpose of reading and writing is not to understand the written tradition, is to understand the oral tradition, which is kind of paradoxical. Yeah? But there you go. This is how we have formulated our methodologies at Dar al-Qasim in Chicago, where in our curriculum we teach the Sihah Sitta, Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, and we teach tafsir and all of that. But the ultimate goal is to re-establish the principle that our deen is based on the oral tradition, because we are the ummah of this Nabi al-Ummi, and we are followers of the Ummiyun.
في تعلم وتعليم الإسلام في العصر الحديث هناك منهجيات أكاديمية، هناك جامعات، وهناك كليات، وهناك تراث مكتوب. وفي فهم هذا التراث المكتوب وفهم الوحي نعتمد على أدوات ثلاثة، هي الحواس الخمس والعقل والوحي كما قلنا من قبل. وهناك معايير ومناهج في التعليم الإسلامي بحيث يبقى هذا التعليم حيا ونزرعه في عقول وفي حياة الناس من خلال التعلم والتعليم. وما نسمو إليه هو الفهم، ولكن ما نقصده بالفهم هنا هو فهم التراث الشفوي، وقد يبدو هذا غريبا ولكنه من صميم الدين وتعلم الدين. فنحن أمة النبي الأمي ونحن أميون، ولهذا في منهجيتنا في دار القاسم مع أننا نعلم الصحاح الست والتفسير إلا أننا نركز على إعادة مبدأ التعليم الفهم لما هو شفهي في تراث هذه الأمة.
So when we apply this criteria to Ilm al-Kalam, you will see that Ilm al-Kalam developed after the 2nd century as a science, as a discipline. And the reason for that are many. There are many reasons why this developed at that time. The chronology is a necessary component to the discussion. We don't have time for that here. But anyway, what I'm saying is that the purpose of Kalam was to defend the aqidah that was in the oral tradition. The purpose of Kalam was not to bring new aqidah to the table. So Ilm al-Kalam is a proof that the methodology of learning through the books is to understand the oral tradition of the Sahaba, of the Tabi'un. How did they see aqidah? So in order to preserve that tradition, we established a science, a discipline called Ilm al-Kalam, so that people would not fall into the bid'at and the innovations. Now, these innovations were intellectual. These innovations were academic. And it is because of those academic intellectual innovations, the ulama, starting with Abu al-Hasan Ash'ari, rahimahullah, stood up, and others with him, to defend the true aqidah of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba and the Tabi'un.
عندما نطبق هذا المعيار فعلى علم الكلام، وعلم الكلام علم تبلور بعد القرن الثاني، وهناك أسباب كثيرة لتبلور هذا العلم وظهوره، ولكن النقطة الأساسية هي أننا ندافع عن العقيدة في تراثنا هذا، ندافع عن العقيدة الشفوية التي توارثناها عن المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم من خلال الصحابة والتابعين. فكل ما كتب من كتب إنما الغرض منها هو الذب أو الدفاع عن هذه العقائد المروية شفويا. وعلم الكلام كان يطمح والغرض منه هو الدفاع عن هذه العقيدة الصحيحة المتوارثة شفويا من البدع. ولذلك تصدر الإمام أبو الحسن الأشعري ومن تبعه للدفاع عن عقائد الصحابة والتابعين، من الدفاع ضد البدع التي أدخلتها بعض العلوم العقلية والأكاديمية على هذه العقائد المتوارثة شفويا.
In this vein, we see the emergence of Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, rahimahullah, where the Maturidi position in Kalam is essentially from Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa being from the oral tradition and from the Mutaqaddimun, and his student, Imam Maturidi rahimahullah being from the written tradition, but the mu'tamad, if you want to say that, if there's a madhab, if you can call the Kalami tradition a madhab, although we should refrain from that, but let's call it a madhab for the sake of argument. Okay? So in the madhab of Imam Maturidi, the statements that he came up with and the ideas that he presented primarily originated from Abu Hanifa himself. And that is why Abu al-Mu'in Nasafi rahimahullah says in his Tabsirah, كان أعلم الناس بعلوم أبي حنيفة وبآرائه. So we see that the Maturidi tradition really is a representation of Abu Hanifa's position on many issues. And this is how we reconcile the idea between the written tradition and the oral tradition, where Abu Hanifa, being from the Tabi'un, relied on the oral tradition in order to learn and to teach. And we see the extension of that through the madhab and the teachings of Imam Maturidi.
عندما ننظر لما كتبه الإمام أبو منصور الماتريدي وظهور الماتريدية، نجد أن الموقف الماتريدي حقيقة هو موقف الإمام أبي حنيفة، وأن الماتريدية ما هي إلا الكتابة المعتمدة لهذا المذهب، ويمكن أن نسميه مذهب مع في ذلك من تحفظ. هذا المذهب الماتريدي هو حقيقة تعبير وإعادة تعبير عن الجمل التي قالها أبو حنيفة وآراء أبو حنيفة، حتى أن الإمام أبو المعين في التبصرة، ويقصد تبصرة الأدلة، كان يقول بأن الماتريدي هو أعلم الناس بأبي حنيفة وعلومه وآرائه. وهذه المواقف للإمام أبو حنيفة كتبت، فدون بذلك المذهب الحنفي أو الأقوال الحنفية الإمام أبو حنيفة، والذي كان من التابعين، فكان يعتمد المذهب أو المنهجية الشفوية، واعتمدت كتابيا في المذهب الماتريدي.
So I would like to follow up with the statements and the speeches given by my two very eminent predecessors, Dr. Arif and Dr. Saeed, and they spoke of several issues about Imam Maturidi and his positions on certain issues. So I would like to highlight two of them. One is from Dr. Arif's talk on Taqween, on creation, and the other is from Dr. Saeed's talk on the role of the aqal. What is the role of the aqal in understanding the values of good and bad, what is good, what is evil, and so on. Because these two will then filter into the discussion of bioethics.
سأركز على بعض النقاط التي وردت في حديث الأخ عارف وفي حديث الشيخ سعيد. الأول تحدث عن التكوين، والثاني تحدث عن العقل والتقبيح والتحسين العقليين، وسأتحدث عن هذه النقاط لأن لها علاقة بالأخلاق البيولوجية وما يسمى بالبايوإثكس.
So let's talk just a little bit about bioethics and who are the participants in the discussion of and in bioethics. So usually the scientists and the physicians and the medical experts and so on. Okay. So in Chicago we have a group of scientists, a group of medical doctors who meet on a regular basis and they talk about bioethics. And I pose the question to them that what is your theory of cure? What is your theory of cure? Or let's say, what is your theory of medicine? And they all sat there with their, mashallah, faces on their hands and they just looked blank. Meaning the question never arose. Do we need a Muslim theory of medicine or Muslim theory of cure or shifa? Then I presented to them 7 ayat from the Quran that speak about shifa. And then I explained those ayat to them, and I gave them the task now to develop a Muslim theory based on their understanding of what is now the role of medicine in the contemporary world. So the question there is that when we say this is a Muslim scientist, then we concentrate on the word Muslim. Science in of itself medicine in of itself, bioethics in of itself is definitely going to be universal. Okay? The rules of medicine, the rules of science do not apply separately and differently from one Muslim to a non-Muslim. Meaning that a non-Muslim, if he has fever, you're going to treat him the same way if a Muslim has fever, hopefully. They're kind of monolithic there. So the way that we must address these issues is that understanding the Muslim position on these very critical matters is necessary in order for us to be a Muslim practitioner.
عندما نتطرق لموضوع الأخلاق البيولوجية والبايوإثكس فإننا نرى أن هذه الأخلاق البيولوجية هي مما يعتني به العلماء ساينتست بمعنى علماء العلوم الطبيعية والأطباء وغيرهم من الفنيين في هذه الأمور. في شيكاغو عندنا مجموعة من هؤلاء العلماء الطبيعيين والأطباء، وفي إحدى جلسات سألتهم عن الكيور أو الشفاء، ما هي نظرية الشفاء أو منهجية الشفاء عندكم وعندنا؟ وقابل سؤالي هذا الوجوم ووضع الأيادي على الذقون تحيرا، لأن السؤال نفسه يبدو أنه لم يرد. ما هي نظرية الشفاء الإسلامية؟ أخذت كتبت لهم بعض الآيات التي تتطرق للشفاء وشرحتها لهم وفسرتها لهم، وقلت لهم حاولوا أن تتصوروا النظرية الإسلامية للشفاء. دور الأطباء والعلماء الطبيعيين قد لا يتغير من حالة إلى حالة، ليس هناك خلاف بأن من له حمى يعالج بنفس الطريقة سواء كان مسلما أو غير مسلم، ولكن ما هو الموقف الإسلامي عندما نقول عالم مسلم أو مسلم ساينتست؟ ماذا نقصد بهذا وما هو الإسلامي في هذا الشأن؟
So we at Daraqas, we have proposed that in order for you to become Muslimized in your approach to any field in academics or in any profession, you need to understand first of all your epistemology. That without understanding your epistemology, you will not bring to the table any Islamic value to the discussion. Number one. Number two, then you must understand, based on your epistemology, you must understand the value of your theology. What does your theology say, and how does your theology relate to your profession on a daily basis? For instance, if you were to see that somebody who is on life support, and how would you now visualize the theology coming down to the level of whether or not you can pull the plug? Can I terminate this person's life? So that theology is based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, Al-Muhyi, Al-Mumit. So now, if you were to be an abstract theologian and you were not really in a position to understand and articulate the discussions in Kalam in such a way that it relates to usul fiqh and fiqh, then you would say that only Allah is the one who gives life and only Allah is the one who gives death. So whether it addresses the issue of the patient in the hospital or whether it doesn't, it really would not matter. But since we do through Ilm al-Kalam, we have methodologies and we have a construct within which we can come to terms with the usul and the fiqh and give a responsible answer to the doctor and the patient's family as to whether or not we can terminate this person's life. Now, this all comes down to what is the nature of theology in the ethical discussion of who gives life and who gives death.
في دار القاسم نحن نحاول أن نجيب كيف تكون أسلمت أي فرع من فروع المعارف، ونعتقد بأنه لابد أن يفهم الإنسان نظرية المعرفة أو الإبستمولوجي أولا، تكون له معرفة ودراية بنظرية المعرفة الإسلامية، وأيضا بالإلهيات أو علم الكلام، لأن هذا مهم جدا في أن نعرف ماذا نقول عن بعض الأسئلة التي تواجهنا في الحياة العملية، كمثلا فصل الأجهزة عن شخص على دعم الحياة أو ما يسمى باللايف سبورت في أحد المستشفيات. نحن يمكن أن نركز على أسماء الباري عز وجل المحيي والمميت، ويمكن أن نقول الله فقط هو الذي يحيي ويميت، ولذلك ليس لنا أي علاقة بهذا الأمر. ولكن هناك منهجيات، وهناك منهجيات في الإلهيات وعلم الكلام، ولها علاقة بأصول الفقه ولها علاقة بالفقه، تجعلنا قادرين على أن نحاول أن نساعد الأطباء في اتخاذ القرار، وأيضا في تعامل الأسرة مع مثل هذه القرارات، لأن هذه الإلهيات أو علم الكلام له علاقة مباشرة بالأخلاق الطبية وما يسمى بالبايوإثكس.
So let's apply the two ideas or theories, if you want to call it a theory, that were presented. One is the one of takhliq, and the other is the one of whether or not the mind is able to perceive the good and bad, the good and evil. Okay? You apply it to this case where a person is on life support and the doctor and the family, they need a response from the mufti or from someone as to whether or not they should or should not. Okay? So now, is that with takhliq and with taqween, we see that once you appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sifah of taqween as being azali and eternal, then everything will be divided into whether or not something is khaliq or makhluq, whether something is the creator or something is the creation. And you bring in the principle of takhliq in such a way that you allow human interaction to remain hadith, and you allow the divine interaction to remain eternal, and you bring the two together and you say, now, when we see this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is muhyi al-mumit, then we are not saying that we are committing shirk by keeping the person, the patient, on the life support or removing him from the life support, because Imam Maturidi has established this principle that the taqween is ghayr al-mukawwan, that the creativity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the creation, and therefore we have a safe threshold, academic and theological threshold, upon which we can base our decision and not move into the grey area of what might be termed as shirk. So this is one. The second one, we'll do the second later.
لنرجع لما تحدث عنه الأستاذين في صباح هذا اليوم، التخليق من جهة والتقبيح والتحسين العقليين من جهة أخرى. على المفتي أن يواجه مواقف معينة، ولننظر في ذلك الموقف الذي تحدثنا عنه، وهو السؤال عن فصل أجهزة دعم الحياة عن مريض في مستشفى. فعندما ننظر أو يسأل المفتي في هذا الصدد، علينا أن ننظر إلى مبدأ صفة التخليق أو التكوين، وأن نتحقق بهذا المبدأ الذي قرره الماتريدي، وهو أن التكوين غير المكون. فهنا فصل أساسي ومهم بين الفعل الإنساني الحادث وبين الفعل الإلهي القديم أو الصفة الإلهية القديمة. فهو الباري عز وجل، فهو المحيي والمميت، وحتى لا نقع في شرك بأن نتخيل بأننا نحيي بهذه الأجهزة أو أننا نميت بإزالة هذه الأجهزة، حتى يكون لنا بالتركيز على قدم صفة التخليق، على حتى يكون لنا حد واضح في هذا الشأن.
When we apply the other theory of tahsin and taqbih, then it becomes even more apparent how the usul of fiqh and how the fiqh will be relative and related to this patient. That is the mind capable of evaluating and discerning the goodness and the evil in this act.
وعندما ننظر إلى مبدأ تحسين وتقبيح العقليين وما يتعلق بذلك في أصول الفقه، يتأتى علينا أن نسأل هل العقل قادر على التقييم في مثل هذه المسائل أم لا؟
So now, this approach gives us a very firm methodology, and it gives us a foundation upon which we can build a theological construct and an ethical foundation for the Muslim practitioner. And we can say now we may develop a theory that is distinctly Muslim.
عندما نبني على مثل هذه المنهجيات الثابتة فإنه يكون لنا أساسيات من الإلهيات وعلم الكلام نبني عليها أخلاق مميزة ومعينة فيما يخص الأخلاق البيولوجية. حينها فقط نستطيع أن نقول أن عندنا نظرية في التعامل مع هذه الأمور نظرية تتميز بإسلاميتها.
So when a Muslim physician or a Muslim scientist is now going to work and he's engaging with his duties in life, and he is energetic and he's motivated and he's contributing to the beneficence of the world, then he will be much clearer in his intention, and he will be much more sincere. We have a plethora of doctors in the US, as I'm sure some of you know. There's so many of them. They crawl out from the woodworks, basically, right? There's so many of them. But very few will ask the question as to how do I serve the patients in an Islamic way, in a Muslim way. So if we bring this discussion up to a level where the discussion is intellectual and the discussion is academic, then I can foresee very quickly, inshallah, in the near future, that many more physicians will be inclined to learning the Turath and learning the legacy that is Islamic, inshallah.
عندما نسأل أو عندما نرى طبيب مسلم أو عالم مسلم يعمل بكل طاقة وبكل نشاط ليساعد العالم والإنسانية وحتى يكون أكثر وضوحا في مقاصده، يعني علينا أن نحاول أن يتعرف مثل هؤلاء على هذا التراث العظيم وأن يكون هناك نقاش عقلي ونقاش أكاديمي بحيث يعرف الطبيب كيف يتعامل أو يخدم المريض إسلاميا. ومع كثرة الأطباء وهم كثر في أمريكا إلا أنهم قلائل الذين يحاولون أن يخدموا المريض إسلاميا. إذا ما ناقشنا هذا التراث عقليا وأكاديميا بجدية فإنه يتأتى حينها ظهور أطباء قادرون على استلهام هذا التراث في خدمة المرضى.
This brings us to another theory that Imam Maturidi has, which is based on the tahsin and taqbih of the aql, and that is the role of al-amru bil ma'ruf wa an-nahyu 'anil munkar. And in his ta'wil Ahl Sunnah, I think that's the name of his tafsir. Yeah. Ta'wil? Yeah. In his tafsir of كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. In the tafsir of this ayah, Imam Maturidi says, المعروف ما هو معروف أقلا والمنكر ما هو منكر أقلا. So he gives the role of the aql to identifying what is ma'ruf and identifying what is munkar. Now, why is this important in a non-Muslim country? It's important here in a Muslim country, definitely. But why is it important in a non-Muslim country? Because in a non-Muslim country, if you are ukhrijat linnas, you are there for the people, then your role should be that you identify what is ma'ruf for people and what is munkar for people. And that Imam Maturidi says that you can do this through the aql. You can do this through the mind. That the mind should be able to perceive and discern what is good and what is bad in a non-Muslim community society, whereby you will engage in discussions with the non-Muslim and you'll engage in discussion in the mainstream society, where you can build not only a foundation but build many bridges, whereby you will have these very fruitful discussions in legislation, in policy making, in academia, in writing white papers, in writing books and textbooks, that we are part of not just the ummah, but we are part of linnas. So this would be, inshallah, the way forward for Muslims, not just in bioethics, but any ethics that we may touch upon. Now, the no.
وهي ما جاء في تفسيره تأويلات أهل السنة عن الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر، حيث يقول الإمام المعروف عقلا والمنكر عقلا، ولذلك خاصة عندما يعيش المسلم بين غير المسلمين ونتحقق بمعاني أخرجت للناس، نعلم أن مثل هذه الرؤية مهمة جدا في الحوار مع غير المسلمين في المجتمع عامة ولبناء الجسور، بحيث يكون هذا الحوار مثمر في التشريع وفي السياسات وأكاديميا. لا بد أن نتعقل هذه المعاني وأن نستخدم العقل لمعرفة ما هو حسن أو قبيح في كل حالة من الحالات بشكل يتوافق مع المجتمعات التي نعيش فيها.
So finally, I would like to say that in the discussion of bioethics, some of you may have questions related to some of the more micro issues that we face in the Ummah and elsewhere in the field of medicine. Okay. Now, those are what we call FAQs, frequently asked questions, and they could be answered maybe with a different panel. I may be able to address one or two of the questions, but the idea that we start with the pre-life. Okay? So you have prenatal, and you have natal life, and then you have birth, and then you have your childhood issues, and then you have your adolescence, and then you go to the end of life. So all the way it's about life. And so within life you're going to have issues that are related to illnesses and sicknesses and related to cure and to medicine. But if all of that is not funneled through a philosophy that is coherent and that is consistent with the Islamic ethos and with the Islamic theory, then it will just be basically participating in earning money. It won't have an agenda that is going to appeal to the intellectual mind and to the academic mind. And this is where I feel we are losing many of our professionals, not just in medicine, but in all fields, where since there is no philosophy or there is no theory upon which they can practice medicine or law or business or education, is just that it's a job, it's a 9-to-5 job, or it's a 6-to-6 job. Okay? So we really want to promote the idea of Kalam in general and push the Maturidi position specifically for this reason, so that we can re-engage the Ummah in something that is Islamic and is something that pertains to their lives immediately.
وأخيرا هناك عدة أسئلة عن الأخلاق البيولوجية، وهناك أسئلة تتكرر كثيرا، ربما في جلسة أخرى نستطيع أن نتحدث عن 2 أو 3 منها. هناك أفكار كثيرة تعتني بما قبل الحياة وما بعد الحياة، ما بعد الولادة، ما بعد الطفولة. هناك مشاكل ومسائل تواجه الإنسان من مرض وشفاء ومحاولات للاستشفاء، وما لم تكن هناك فلسفة متكاملة ومتناسقة مع أخلاق الإسلام تتحول كثير من الحرف إلى جني للمال بلا روية ولا تعقل، ولذلك نحتاج إلى إعمال العقل والدراسات الأكاديمية. نحن نخسر الكثير من الحرفيين لأنه ليست هناك فلسفة واضحة. يجب أن تكون هناك فلسفة للأطباء وفلسفة للقانونيون والمعلمون، ويجب أن للمعلمين، ويجب أن تكون هناك فكرة عن الكلام. ولذلك نحن نحتاج لعلم الكلام الماتريدي حتى تتصل هذه الأمة بتراثها وماضيها وتستطيع أن تقدم للإنسانية شيء متناسق مع فلسفتها ونظرتها المتكاملة للحياة.
جزاكم الله خير.
شكرا جزيلا مولانا الشيخ.
جزاكم الله خير.
ونأخذ فقط سؤالين، ويشترط أن يكون السائل من الأخوات، لأننا للأسف الشديد أهملنا بعض الأسئلة في الجلسات الماضية، ففقط أختين لو عندكن أسئلة فليتفضلن. إن لم يكن هناك أسئلة من الأخوات فالإخوة يتفضل سيدي. أعطي I was asking if our sisters, the ladies, have any questions, because we neglected to give the opportunity to them in the last sessions, and actually missed out on a couple of questions from one of the participants. So are there any women participants that have any questions? They have a priority. If not, then we go to Professor now.
Well, this question of these doctors, it reminded me with the tradition of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when asked Allah if doctors, if sickness and if يعني إذا كان المرض والشفاء منك يا رب فما يفعل الأطباء. Now, the tradition says that the answer was يطيبون نفوس عبادي ويأكلون أرزاقهم. That means they treat the sick with ethics, with the ethics of Islam, and at the same time they are earning their livings.
Was there a question?
Oh, I think it was more of a commentary rather than a question. Yeah.
ما شاء الله. جزاكم الله خير.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم
السلام
السلام.
ورحمة الله.
My name is Sheikh. I'm really concerned about your presentation. It's really good, and I'm concerned about what you said about Nadratul Ma'rifa based on Maturidi Kalam, and also you said that there are three ways to know something, like Hiwas and Aql and then Wahy. My concern is about how this knowledge based on, I mean, because I tried to compare between Maturidi and Ash'ari, and I found that Maturidi has great concern on Nadaratul Ma'rifa and the book of Ilm al-Tawheed, Kitab al-Tawheed, or Kitab al-Qa'id al-Nasafiyya, start by the chapter on Nadaratul Ma'rifa. Otherwise, most of Ash'ari Kutub has no theory on it, except very little thing. And I found that thing on the Kutub of Ibn Kalam in Indonesia, particularly in Aceh, mostly based on Nadaratul Kalam, Nadaratul Ma'rifa, on Maturidi Kalam. So if I claim that the founder of Nadaratul Ma'rifa al-Kalam was Maturidi, is it true or wrong? This is my only just claim, because this is my assumption. And secondly, I found the word like Awadudin Ma'rifatullah. And this term was taught in Ilmu Kalam in Aceh, Indonesia, and I didn't find it I haven't found it in other books of Shaira. And then I assume that this book is close to Maturidiyya because of what he said. Ma'rifa, I mean, is know Allah by Aqli, and then Ilm know Allah by Shari. And then I found that translation of knowledge in Qanun Muqta'ala of Aceh based on this classification of Maturidiyya. So I was really pleased if you can elaborate this thing and to say your comment. Thank you very much.
How many hours do we have? So, as far as the Imam Maturidi's approach, his approach is basically that One is we're going to talk about the Khaliq, that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the other is we're going to talk about the Makhluq, so the Mukawwin and the Mukawwan. Right. So in order to establish the veracity, shall we say, of the Mukawwin, we must discuss what is the Mukawwan. So we must discuss the nature of the Mukawwan, meaning creation. So his approach is that you take the Mukawwan, you take the creation, and you analyze that. And based on that, you will come up with certain propositions and certain mabadi and certain principles upon which you're going to base your argument that the Mukawwan is hadith. Right? Yeah. The Mukawwan is created. The Mukawwan is temporal. And the Mukawwin is azali. So based of that, this is the foundation upon which he writes Kitab al-Tawheed. So he is concerned that instead of going into the maqulat or whatever, whether it's a mustahil aqlan or mumkin aqlan or wajib aqlan, instead of that approach, you take the approach of establishing and identifying yourself with the mukawwan, with the makhluq, with the kawn, with the creation. And this gives us a sense of ma'rifah, right? Because if you are discussing this and you know that you are part of the mukawwan and you'll never be the mukawwin, that brings about a certain tadallul, a certain tawadu, a certain khashya, which leads to ma'rifah. Yeah? So the issue of ma'rifah definitely is central to the Maturidi approach in discerning whether or not this is something that's hadith or ghayr hadith. So that will be the premise upon which he builds his foundation in Kitab al-Tawheed. يعني هذا رأيي. إذا كان في كلام آخر, then maybe the ulama here in front of us may have a different approach. But this is what I found, that the issue of ma'rifah is essential because at the end of the day we are created to worship Allah. Right? And the way you worship Allah is through ma'rifah. إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ أَيْ لِيَعْرِفُونَ كَمَا قال ابن عباس رضي الله عنه. Right? So this approach of distinguishing between what the Mukawwin and Mukawwan led Imam Maturidi to build a foundation upon which the ulama would be able to relate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as being part of the Mukawwan, not to become the Mukawwin. So we see that later on, Imam Abu al-Ma'in Nasafi rahimahullah in his Tafsirah, he elaborates upon this. And he goes into much detail about how Imam Maturidi came to certain conclusions based on what I just said. So yes, there is that distinction, I think, but I think at the end of the day, all books of Kalam are designed so that we worship Allah in a better way. And they're designed in such a way that we become closer to Allah. And that is the ultimate purpose of studying Kalam. Because Kalam, eventually, I would dare say that, mashallah, from the Mutasawwifun, right? I would say that most of them were Mutakallimun, right? So there's a connection between Kalam and Tasawwuf. And what is Tasawwuf? Except Ma'rifullah. Right? So the Kalam leads you to a higher state of Iman, to a higher state of Yaqeen, to a higher state of Abudiyah, and to a higher state of worship. So you're probably on the right track there.
Excellent.
Inshallah.
Okay, Barakallahu feek, Maulana. I think we should stop here because speaking of bioethics, we are biological beings also, and we need food intake, and we only have about 25 minutes to actually ingest something to sustain us through a difficult afternoon. So thank you very much, everyone, for your forbearance, and we invite you all to lunch. So let's have lunch quickly, in about half an hour, and then during half an hour, and then we come back, inshallah. Thank you. Thank you, Maulana.